Here to discuss gender, power, politics, and season 3 of Netflix's The Diplomat. Please welcome actors Keri and Allison Janney, alongside creator and executive producer Debora Cahn. Here to lead the conversation is Atlantic staff writer Shirley Li.
Everyone. Keri, Allison, Debora, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, Debora, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Before you created The Diplomat, you worked on shows such as Homeland and The West Wing, where you worked with Allison. And now those shows, I think, share some DNA with The Diplomat. Yeah. For one thing, they're set in high-stakes political arenas. They feature, highly competent female characters in leadership roles. So I'm just curious, why do you think you're continually drawn to such stories and such characters?
So my parents are immigrants. And I'm the only person who doesn't turn around when you say Dr. Cahn in my house. I was the baby in the family, so I got a pass, even though I was interested in theater, and they all thought that I would be on unemployment forever and ever and ever. But there was a sense that we needed to use it. Like, this was, my parents were Holocaust survivors, okay? Holocaust. But there was this feeling that we needed to make it worth it, and that the things that we did had to be somehow important. So the fact that I wanted to write stories about how complicated sex is was not entirely going to hold up. And I think I felt like talking about the most important things in the world, which those shows all are trying to do, buys us a certain amount of sex is complicated. And also, Aaron Sorkin cracked the code on how do you talk about government in popular entertainment, and anything, I was never able to handle The Atlantic or the newspaper. It was so overwhelming to me, and I think shows like that helped me get in the door and find my footing and be able to kind of look at that world with a little bit of a buffer, because I was following the sex is complicated story.
Yeah. I mean, there's an accessibility to the stories that you're writing here, especially in The Diplomat. Sure, we have a character like Keri's character, who's about to go meet the president, but she's got a stain on her pants, right? There's this entry point for us. So on that note, Keri and Allison, this is a show that plays with our assumptions about what it takes for women to be successful and to be ambitious. Keri, I'll start with you. How has working on this show influenced your beliefs about what it takes for a woman to succeed?
I mean, you have enormous respect for women who are in this. And we've been lucky enough to meet and talk with many of them. But that's what's so special about what Debora, her specific writing. It's that she's writing about these important people, but she doesn't forget their humanness and their messiness, and the mess of the clothes, the mess on the pants. And she's able to hold those two things together, and that's what's so fun about it. And I think it's very clear that it's written by a woman. And I love that she doesn't shy away from that. There's a real specificity to the scenes, and it may seem like we're improvising, but we're not. All of those things are very specific, and they're from Debora, so it's very much already written.
Dr. Cahn.
Dr. Cahn.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, similar question for you, Allison. What have you taken away about understanding, especially as you're playing the vice president, now president of the United States?
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility, especially seeing as we still have not managed as a country to elect a female for president. So it seems like television sometimes is showing us where we ought to go. And playing Grace is taking on someone who is incredibly powerful and principled and unflinching, and she has to, hold the power of the office, and yet she has this incredible sense of humor and wry wit for being underestimated her entire life. That gives her this place of just. So she walks in a room, she knows how to, she's played the game long enough, she knows how to manipulate a room and make it seem like something's your idea. She knows, she's very seasoned as opposed to Kate's character. And I think these are two women that approach power very differently. Grace is very measured and strong and quiet, and Kate is a firecracker. She's very explosive, and it's so much fun to play. It's like, and Debora's writing is like catnip for actors. It's just, you cannot wait to. I personally cannot wait to say all of the lines I get to say that she writes for me. So I feel I underestimate myself all the time. It's fun to play someone who's survived that, has risen above it.
Yeah. I mean, this show is certainly explosive and dramatic, and we just saw a clip from the beginning of season 3. We're heading into this 3rd season, and over the past 2 seasons, something that I've noticed when people talk about this show, it's almost like they're not sure how realistic it is. I was looking this up, and I've seen it described as both, quote, a political fantasy and, quote, escapism for political junkies, while also being called, quote, prescient. And in fact, Debora, you've been labeled multiple times as a, quote, psychic witch by Keri in multiple interviews. So Debora.
I am.
So Debora, what is your North Star for ensuring that the Diplomat remains both realistic and escapist?
We talk to a lot of diplomats. It's not particularly complicated. All of this started with doing research for Homeland. They always brought in a ton of experts, and it was always fascinating to sit in the room and hear what these people do. And one day, an ambassador walked in, and she looked a lot like my Aunt Ruthie, and she looked like a really helpful librarian. And then she started talking. She talked a mile a minute. And the things that came out of her mouth, like the things that she did on a Tuesday, with a warlord and there were bombs dropping, but she still had to have the tea before you could have the conversation. It was absolute. I refer to her as a superhero in a pantsuit. And she, oddly enough, not a lot of people wanted to write stories about her life. So when I said we were going to write this show, she gave me the numbers of every retired female ambassador that she knew, which was a lot, but when you think about the fact that it's all of them, it's not a lot. But they were uniformly, it was like this generation of women who had figured out that you could kind of fly under the radar by not being the kind of raconteur that we think about when we think of a kind of a classic, male Yale ambassador. They were a little bit unassuming and flying under the radar and just very, very quietly around the side, securing rogue caches of nuclear waste. It's insane.
Yeah, absolutely normal. Yeah. That's something we all do.
World peace.
Yeah, it's so easy. We were talking a little bit about this. Allison, you were saying you love getting these scripts, right? These are such fun characters to play. I feel like the two of you also have this tightrope to walk. You have to make what's happening credible to the audience, while at the same time just make that melodrama also believable. So for you, let's talk a little bit more about that research process then. Do you also speak to ambassadors? I know we don't have a female president for you to talk to. But, Keri, let's start with you. What helps you?
Well, first of all, I want to say, this is such a great job. I just feel like today just feels so incredibly lucky and important, and I am so honored to get to depict these people, tell these people's stories, who are civil servants and USAID and the Foreign Service. I just feel like they're this invisible army of our world right now, of our country especially, that are it's just a terrible time. And I feel so lucky that we get to do this really fun show, but shine a light on them. So that I am really grateful for. Yes, so Jane Hartley, Ambassador Jane Hartley, I just saw a few weeks ago, and she was the really to my fake person, and we dined many times in London in fancy locations, and the last dinner we had, we were at the River Cafe in London, and we actually didn't eat our meals because so many people came to talk to her, from museum people, sports people, artists, directors who were, everyone knew Jane. And the common denominator I find in all of these people that are serving our country is like a quickness of thought. They have this exceptional quickness of thought, and it's unique to them. And they're incredible people serving our country, and I just think it's really cool that we get to do this show about them right now.
Allison, I'm curious, just to build off that question about the research process, not only do you not have a real-life counterpart that you can go to about this, but how do you see Grace, actually? As a role model, or a secondary protagonist, or an antagonist because of this dynamic between the two of you?
Well, playing her, I don't like to judge what Grace does. Some people are looking at her as a kind of a villain, and they're questioning the choices she's made. But I think she's a woman who has earned the right to make difficult choices, and I think that her mind was, her moral compass, whatever, was in the right direction. Unfortunately, things didn't go the way they should have, so people question her. But I think she's an incredibly, I enjoy playing her and playing someone this powerful. And I feel, what was the question?
How would you characterize who she is?
Oh, okay, so yeah.
We need to bring out the wine.
We need some wine. She's what was the question?
How would you characterize who she is on the show? Is she so you don't think she's a villain?
No, she's not. I love her. She's I had to, when I was researching, I was trying to figure out who, I could model her. I was looking at someone like Hillary Clinton's trajectory to the White House. And, this is a woman who's been steeped in politics and public service her whole life, and she's earned the right to have this position. And it's been a pleasure playing her every step of the way. I don't know how else to, that's it.
No, it's true. Debora, I was thinking about how in the first two seasons, before Grace enters the picture, the core tension comes from Kate and her husband Hal, right? That marriage is essentially diplomacy in the bedroom, if you will. There's all these power plays between them. One's jealous of the other, maybe. One's trying to make moves that the other disapproves of. So what doors opened for you once you included a character like Grace in the narrative, starting with the final 2 episodes of last season, and now you have a whole season to work with?
I think that there are certain, I never like to write where there's like the woman character, or the strong woman character, or the woman in power. If you have 2 or 3, there's, when there are scenes where both of you and Nana Mensah playing the White House Chief of Staff, and Ali An playing the Chief of Station. My favorite things is when they're all in the room and you can sort of let go of the question of like, what's the woman doing and what's the woman's role? It's just like a bunch of broads duking it out. And the idea of bringing in a character that was a lot like Kate and was sort of, I think Hal used to be a mentor for Kate. And then he was sort of like a star figure, and then he was like the love of her life, and then they got married, and things sort of even a little like the mentor bit is played out, and we wanted to kind of find somebody who could be a mentor for Kate, who she could think that she was going to hate and then meet and completely fall in love with, and then be put in this position where she's like, oh, you're the root of all evil. So, and have to kind of go through that process and then learn from her that were she in the same position. I'm always interested in those moments where like a door opens and you learn a little bit more about something and your whole idea about it flips on its head. And I think that's what happens when Kate really starts to understand the decision that was in front of Grace. And she may not have liked how she went about it, but in the same position, she would have done exactly the same thing. So we're looking for that as often as we can, to find situations where like really smart people, not naifs and not somebody who's new in the field and young and bright-eyed, but somebody who really knows what they're doing, who really knows what they believe, and has a lot of experience, has somebody else with a little bit more open up a door and just turn their entire perspective on the head.
Now, I'm curious because we were talking a little bit about, the research that goes into this and how it really is hard right now for civil servants. You mentioned USAID. I am curious, Debora, what are your thoughts on the role fiction plays in portraying these real-life people? Do you ever feel hesitant about pushing them in the direction of being a villain? Or do you try to make sure you're making them as heroic as possible? Does this come up in the writer's room for you?
So I don't want to write either heroes or villains, because I think that, I don't know, stories about villains feel easy to me. Like, it would be so nice if we could in fact say, if we could just get that one guy, all of our problems would be solved. We still should try, but we will still have a lot to deal with after that. So I didn't want to write about like corrupt politics or people who want money. Like, it just feels too easy. It feels much harder to say like, what if everybody's good and everybody likes children and everybody's really smart and they have great goals and we are still as fucked as we are? Like, that's an interesting story. So that's what I'm always looking for it to be. And I think that I went through the point in my career where like women were a new enough story that like they better get it right all the time. And fortunately, we are now in a place where we can tell a story about a woman who is really smart, really knows what she's doing, still gets it wrong a lot, still stumbles a lot, still says the wrong thing, makes the wrong decision, and is the hero. So we're always looking with both of them, and the same thing with Hal. We're looking to create a story where you think you know that they're wrong, he's wrong and she's right, and then we flip it. Or she's wrong and she's right, and then we flip it. Because like, isn't it like that?
No. It is like that. You're right. Yeah. Yes. Keri, I've read that you are now, after doing this show, you're now able to listen to a speech, delivered by some ambassador somewhere and be able to read between the lines.
Well, it's true. You really get like, oh, that whole speech was about this whole like 25-minute flowery speech was about saying one little kind of slightly colored comment about we are not moving forward with this one thing. Yeah, and it becomes so clear. Yeah. And the pageantry of it kind of fades a bit. Which is all, and it also, that's the other thing what's fascinating to me is just the minutia and the little details of government work, which we know nothing about, which is sort of part of the fun I love about this show. We don't know what any of these people do who are helping us so much. And so I think maybe that's part of the help, I hope, too.
I mean, it's a cool skill to take away from doing a show.
It is.
And Allison, I mean, you were telling me backstage that you think of presidents now as pilots. Can you
I know. I guess when I fly, I've always been a little nervous, and the day before, I start thinking about the pilot. And I start thinking, please let him have a good relationship. Please let him be in a good place in his life, and please let him, I start thinking about him and the co-pilot and sort of blessing them and thinking, and I think, and it's in the same way you want people that are leading your country to be people who are sane, people who are, are in a good place in their lives and they're doing good things. I don't know. That's my little analogy I was thinking about, but it's true. I just think, and so it's not working right now. I mean, really.
It's not working. You need to work harder.
I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work on that tonight. But my God, that's what I was referring to.
So good.
I was just like, we don't have enough time to talk about this right now, but let's figure out what you mean. I mean, speaking of presidents, less than a week after the second season premiered, Donald Trump was elected president again, which dashed the possibility of there being a female president at the same time as The Diplomat was airing, and put a woman in the office. So, Deborah, how did that influence, if at all, the writing of seasons 3 and 4? In general, how do you navigate real-world headlines when thinking about this show?
First of all, let me say, you will see in episode 1, there is a scene where she's sworn in, and we filmed it like a couple days after. And we all just stood there weeping. It was the saddest thing in the world. Like, why can't it be real? Why can't you be? Will you?
Come on, Allison.
We don't really want that.
Drinking your water.
Yeah.
We can share it.
It's fine.
We don't want to do a rip from the headlines thing. We don't want. I don't want to talk directly about what's happening, but I want to be in the foreign policy headspace of the country and be talking about kind of what the country's worried about and thinking about, and it's just always interesting to me, like people who are really in this, people who really know about the world, like what are they worried about when they go to sleep? So it used to be that we would get together with all of these people who are in the field and say, what do you worry about late at night? And they would be like, North Korea. And we'd be like, okay, so let's write about North Korea. So that process and the psychic witch thing just comes from talking about people who know what's coming down the road, and then we write about that, and then it comes down the road. We often get it wrong. In the first season, there was, we talked to Heather Conley, is a brilliant, brilliant Russia specialist, and we talked to her about what it was like to do diplomacy with Russia during this period of time where all of their foreign policy was executed through covert operations. It was all like passive aggressive. And so how do you negotiate with somebody who won't acknowledge that they're fighting with you? So I thought that was so cool, and we wrote most of the first season about that. And a friend of mine who is a really smart journalist who, was a kind of a consultant for us. We talked about a lot of storylines, so she knew what I was writing about. She called and she was like, I have bad news for you and the people of Ukraine, which is that your whole story about passive-aggressive Russia isn't really going to be interesting anymore. So we didn't see that coming. We scrapped that whole story. We changed it and rewrote a bunch of episodes. And fortunately, that was kind of the last big foreign policy shift in this country. I'm kidding. It's been pretty bad. There's no way to know what we should write about right now. Like the foreign policy headspace of the country, it changes every 36 hours. It is every single day we walk in the writer's room and it's like, I don't know, guys, what do you think? It is very, very hard to figure out. I don't want to write about what's happening. I don't even want to live what's happening. I want to create, not an example, but like a little bit of an idea of people who take action in impossible situations, like, what do they do? What are the steps? Because I'm always like, it's terrible, we're all gonna die. And there are people, the kind of people who do this work, they just go in the office and they do stuff all day long. And so the idea of being able to understand a little bit of what they're doing, like the people who really do solve things, like, what are the first 3 steps? I think hopefully it's helpful for me to know that those things are concrete, and hopefully it's just serves as a little bit of a, okay, like, if you're rolling up your sleeves and digging in, this is some of the ways that people do that.
Well, I have to ask, has there been anything recently that you have felt, oh, I really need to put this into this show, that you didn't?
I didn't want to write about a president. I have to say, I really didn't want to. I had a great time doing that once upon a time, and I was not interested in doing that, and then she ruined it all. So now we're writing about a president. So, like, I don't have anything to say about presidential politics. I don't, like...
You sure?
So again, it's sort of, I don't want to do a fantasy world, but I do want to do a, if you were that fucked and you were that smart, what would you do? So that's kind of where we're at.
Right, a show about competence, which can be rare.
Science fiction.
Right. Well, I'd kind of like to end on a question that I hope is not as, dire as thinking about current events. I mean, Debora, actually, Keri and Allison, feel free to chime in here. I actually would like to know how you would campaign for your characters. Debora, who do you think would be the better president, Grace or Kate?
There is deliberately a difference in the maturity level of the character, and of the 2 characters, and they were designed to be a sort of a before and after. And I think that the people that I knew who kind of my generation, who are just sort of coming into power, like running things now. I think there was a long time where we were like, we don't need to play the game. We're just so fucking smart. We'll just barrel in there, and we don't need to do our hair, and like, fuck the food on the clothes. We're here, and we know what we're doing. We're smart, and we're educated, and we're stronger than you. And then there is a generation of women who knows, like, great, and it's a complicated game, and there's no level on which you shouldn't be playing it. And I think that's what I learned from those people that we talked to who are in those positions, and I think that's what Kate is learning from Grace. Like, it just, no matter how complicated you think it is, you get in there and you get in front of those lights, and it's just way, way more complicated. And she's been ready for that. Like, she's been looking for that, and she's been pretending her whole life that she's not looking for it, which means she's missing stuff. Incompetent.
Gladly.
So your vote is for Grace?
Yeah.
Ah. Well, I was actually expecting a lot more, diplomacy in your answer, but yeah.
And by the way, who wants to be president?
I cannot imagine.
That's true.
No.
Yeah.
But I just want to say this, I'm excited. This next season is really cool because we deal with a lot of the personal relationships behind the political policy making, and it's really kind of fun in introducing my husband Todd, played by Brad Whitford, which is just incredible, and seeing how they handle the pressures of Grace being president, and seeing how Kate and Hal handle the new pressures of me being president, and that stuff is just so much fun to get to play this season, and the Prime Minister too, and his wife. There's some great, wonderful stuff coming up.
Listen, we have a minute left, and Keri, I just want to give you an opportunity to campaign for yourself.
I don't want to be president. That sounds like a lot more public speaking, which I don't want. I'm happy to be where I am.
Got it. Well, here's the thing. The new season, I'm excited to see how this, this unholy combination, plays itself out. But everyone should know The Diplomat returns October 16 on Netflix. It's the 3rd season. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for being here.